Hi, everyone. Welcome again to Ivy English. I'm Bruce.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
Wow, it's October already. This is our first time together for this month. And we're starting with you, giving you a vocabulary test. This is a cloze item and 10 questions, 10 statements. Something's missing, and we give you 4 choices to choose from. Let's take a look at the first one. I highly recommend that you hike this mountain. Although it is a blank and tough climb to the top, the spectacular scenery is worth it. So what should fit in the blank? Although it is a blank and tough climb. Tender? Well, that's the opposite of tough. Steep? Oh, that means it goes up almost like a ladder. Reliable? Do we have a reliable climb? I don't think so. A loose climb. That doesn't sound very safe. I would definitely choose steep. If something is flat, it's very easy to walk on. But if something is steep, then it's very difficult to walk up or drive up. So, choose B. I highly recommend that you hike this mountain. Although it is a steep and tough climb to the top, the spectacular scenery is worth it.
OK， 好，我们看到这个题目，他说 I highly recommend， 就是强力建议啊，这个力推的意思，我非常推荐啊 ，that you hike this mountain 啊 ，hike 在这里是爬山的意思啊，跟登山不一样哈，登山是要有装备、要有训练的，好，那爬山呢，可能就是啊这个一个小山啊，你去散步一下，那叫 hike， 所以我强烈建议你爬这一座山啊。虽然它是怎么样呢？它是一个怎么样的 climb 就是攀或者爬啊，那所以就它爬上去呢是有一点点的怎么样？还有 tough 就是有一点困难啊，不是那么好爬。好，然后呢，这个 to the top 你要到山顶不是那么好爬，但是呢 the spectacular scenery 啊，这个非常壮观的景色 ，spectacular 就是很壮观的意思 ，is worth it， 大家可以把它记起来啊。Something is worth it 就表示它是值得的。好，那我们要找哪一个字来跟 tough 来相配呢？第一个字 A 选项 A tender 是温和的柔和的，那不对。B steep 是陡峭的，这是我们要的字啊，所以很陡峭很难爬啊，要爬到山顶的话，所以 B 是正确答案。C reliable 就是 dependable 就是可靠的可以信赖的啊，那这个跟 climb 没有办法连在一起啊，那所以不对。D loose 是宽松的，我们也不会讲 a loose climb 没有这种说法啊，所以呢我们选 B。
Number 2. Emma and her husband have divorced. Next month, the court will declare who the legal of their son will be, the legal blank of their son will be. If you are divorced, it means that your marriage is broken up and they are no longer married. If the court declares something, it means that they officially announce something to be true, and this is legally binding. It means that everyone has to follow this court's decision. So the court is declaring who the legal something of their son will be. Obviously, we're talking about who will care for the son legally, who is legally in charge of or responsible for their son. So that's what we're looking for. Our choices are A, guardian, B, colleague, C, burglar, or D, founder. The only word here that has anything to do with caring for or being responsible for somebody is A, guardian. Emma and her husband have divorced. Next month, the court will declare who the legal guardian of their son will be.
OK， 这个句子我们看到说 Emma 跟她的先生呢 have divorced， 他们已经离婚了啊，各位记得用现在完成式。然后呢 next month 下个月这个法院呢将会 declare 会宣布 who 是谁啊 the legal 什么 of their son will be， 他们儿子的 legal 什么东西会是谁啊？那我们大概读到这里，可能想大概就是法定监护人哦。那我们看 A 选项 guardian 就是监护人，所以这是正确答案。那 colleague B 选项是同事哈，同事没有什么法定同事的哈，所以这个答案不对。那 C burglar 是闯空门的小偷或者业贼，好，那也没有什么法定的业贼，这也不对。D founder 是创始人或者创办人，那当然在这个句子里面也意思不对，所以我们要选 A guardian 哈 ，legal guardian 就是法定监护人。
Number 3. My brother is now in his room preparing for the final exams, so we should talk at a low volume so as not to blank him. Okay, we've got someone's brother in his room who is studying for final exams, very, very important tests. So the person who is talking or writing is talking to his friend saying, we shouldn't bother my brother because he needs a quiet environment. So one of these should be the same or similar meaning. To bother, A looks very good. Disturb means to bother, to break someone's attention or what they're doing. Imitate is to copy. That doesn't fit. Neglect means that you don't do your responsibility, and it's the brother's responsibility to study, not the writer or speaker of the sentence. And if you oppose someone, then you are against them. You're not going to help them. So certainly A, disturb, is our best choice. My brother is now in his room preparing for the final exams. So we should talk at a low volume so as not to disturb him.
这个题目告诉我们my brother 现在他在他的房间里面干嘛呢？in his room preparing for 他在他的房间里面准备这个期末考 the final exams 期末考不会只考一个，所以他那个 exam 加 s。所以呢，我们应该说话的时候要怎么样 ？Talk at a low volume， 就是低音量的说话，说话的时候放低声音so as not to 才不会怎么样他，才不会打搅他嘛那我们看选项 A disturb， 这个答案很好，因为 disturb 就打搅或者干扰的意思，所以这是我们的正确答案。B imitate 是模仿我们干嘛模仿他呢？他在读书没什么好模仿的C neglect 是忽略的意思所以我们要忽略他也不对，因为忽略跟声音高低没有关系，所以这个答案也不对。D oppose 是反对的意思我们讲话小声一点才可以反对他，这个也讲不通，所以我们要选 A disturb 才不会打搅他干扰他。
Number 4, sending children to daycare centers is gradually becoming the blank for young couples in modern society because most of them have to work full-time. If you work full-time, it means that you're in the office from supposedly 9 o'clock until 5 o'clock, but literally mostly from 8:30 until generally 7, 8, or 9 p.m. at night. If you're working full-time, you don't really have time to take care of children. And so you send your children to daycare centers. A daycare center is a place for taking care of children. In Chinese, it's called an anjinban, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it's called daycare center in English. And it's not generally in America associated with having the kids do their homework. It's literally where the kids, it's just basically like a box for children with people to be responsible for them. You just throw them in there for the day. Sending children to daycare centers is gradually becoming the something. If you take out the answer is pretty clear. It's gradually becoming normal. It's gradually becoming usual for young couples in modern society. Normal is the key word here because our choices here are A, toll, B, howl, C, norm, and D, bolt. If you know that normal is the word that we're looking for, then C, norm, comes out to you as the main choice because the norm is another way of saying normal. So choose C. Sending children to daycare centers is gradually becoming the norm for young couples in modern society because most of them have to work full-time.
OK， 我们看到这个题目，他说它的主词是一个动名词片语 sending children to daycare centers， 把小孩送到daycare centers 就是安亲班或者是托儿所把小孩送到托儿所送到安亲班去呢 is gradually 慢慢的 becoming 渐渐的成为怎么样那 for young couples 对于年轻的夫妇来讲那尤其是现代社会的年轻夫妇young couples in modern society， 那为什么呢？因为 most of them 就是指这年轻的夫妇大多数都必须要 have to work full time， 就是他们要有全职的工作所以这个把小孩送去安亲班已经成为一个怎么样？大概是常做的事情，或者是一个很常见的事情那我们看看选项 A toll 是这个伤亡人数或者是高速公路的过路费我们讲 a toll station 就是一个收费站。那 B howl 这个字呢，它是嚎叫的声音例如说的 howls of dogs 那狗的嚎叫声那这个显然也不对。那 C norm 是常态或者规范我们常常讲 something has become 或者 is becoming the norm 就是它已经慢慢成为常态了，所以这是我们要的标准答案 C norm。那 D bolt 是闪电它已经变成闪电了，这不知道什么意思所以我们要选 C norm。
Number 5. The waiter was so blank that he accidentally spilled a glass of juice on the customer's white dress, which made her flip out. Ooh, this waiter is not a very good waiter. He spilled a glass of juice, I hope it wasn't tomato juice, on a customer's white dress, and to flip out means to go crazy, to be extremely upset. So, he was so what? Logical, diligent, skillful, or clumsy? Well, if you accidentally spill a glass of juice and you are the waiter, that's the last thing you should do, so it certainly isn't logical to do that. If you're diligent, you're careful about what you do. Now, you could have an accident like that, but waiters should never be in that situation. Skillful would be the opposite here. What we're looking for is D, clumsy. That is the opposite of skillful, and in some way diligent as well. So if you're clumsy, you are 笨手笨脚. I've heard that so many times. People tell me that I remember that one. Well, for number 5, it will be the waiter was so clumsy that he accidentally spilled a glass of juice on the customer's white dress, which made her flip out.
好，那个题目说 The waiter 这个服务的人员呢 was so 他非常怎么样到什么程度呢？他 accidentally 他不小心的很意外的 spilled a glass of juice 打翻了一杯果汁然后呢洒到了这个顾客的 customers 他的 white dress 他的白色的洋装那这件事情 which 就是指他洋装被洒到果汁这件事情呢 made her 就是指那个顾客，使得这个客人怎么样 flip out 就是所谓的 flip out 就是因为很惊讶或者很震惊而勃然大怒非常的生气发飙了好，所以呢我们看看他应该是很怎么样，所以才会不小心把果汁打翻了。我们看 A logical 是指很合乎逻辑的他很合乎逻辑，所以把这个果汁打翻了这不对。B diligent 很勤勉那会不会打翻果汁跟勤不勤勉没有什么关系。C skillful 是有技术的他技术很好就不会打翻了嘛，都不对。所以第4个答案clumsy 就是笨拙的，笨手笨脚的，他很笨拙笨手笨脚的，所以把果汁洒到客人的衣服上了，所以 D 是正确答案 clumsy。
Number 6. Nowadays, it is blank impossible to find a young person on the street who does not have a cell phone. I would like to add that it's impossible to find any person on the street who does not have a cell phone, including children. So, I mean, Bruce is the one exception that proves the rule, okay?
Well, he's not on the street.
He's also not on the street. Exactly. I mean, you're a unicorn.
You mean a billion-dollar company?
Right, exactly. A billion-dollar company. That is exactly what you are. Anyways, what I would like to point out is that in this sentence, we don't really need a word in front of impossible. Impossible is already 不可能. But if we want to emphasize how impossible this is, I mean, ideally, you'd want to say that it's very impossible because very is an intensifier. However, you cannot use very with impossible. So we need to find another word that means very. A, automatically, B, exclusively, C, virtually, or D, compatibly. Wow, none of these jump out as being the same as very. Let's go back. Automatically means it will happen without even trying. Like it will be done by some process. That doesn't make sense. Exclusively means that only a certain thing is true. Like this boutique exclusively sells men's underwear. And then we have C, virtually. Virtually is actually our answer here. And most of our listeners may not have realized this because the most common usage of this word has changed in the last 10 years. Virtually, when I was growing up, just meant nearly or almost or pretty much that thing. It's like the closest thing to this thing. And now, virtually, because of virtual reality and, all of this internet,
Vocabulary.
Yeah, vocabulary. Virtually starts to mean the unreal space of the internet as opposed to the real space of our physical 3D world. And so that meaning is overtaking what, for me, is the original meaning. So, but what the meaning is that's being used here is the meaning I grew up with, which is something is nearly true or almost true or as like it were true. And so that's our choice today, because it's nearly impossible, it's almost impossible, it's as like it was impossible. So choose C. Nowadays, it is virtually impossible to find a young person on the street who does not have a cell phone.
好 ，nowadays 就现在 ，it is 怎么样 impossible？ 好，不可能怎么样可以找到一个年轻人在街上找到一个年轻人啊，手上或者他身上没有手机的。好，那我们看看要找哪一个字来修饰 impossible 呢 ？A automatically 是自动的，好，自动的不可能，很奇怪。B exclusively 是独有的、专门的，也不对。C virtually 这个对了，因为 virtually 是 almost 的意思哈，所以 it's almost impossible 是几乎不可能的，这是一个常见的 collocation。好，那这是正确答案。那不过刚刚 Angela 老师有提醒我们，现在呢，因为网络的非常流行哈，所以 virtually 这个字现在很多时候它的意思已经变成虚拟的意思了。好，所以答案是在这里应该是还是 virtually impossible。那第四个选项 compatibly 是相容的哈，和电脑和软体的用常常讲相容的。好，那在这里也不是我们要的答案，所以我们要的答案是 virtually。
7. The bank teller's face was pale and her voice blank as she told the police about the robbery that had happened this morning. So this a teller is a person who serves the public at a bank. Her face was pale. It was without much color. This is usually a sign of fear or ill health. And her voice blank. Well, we wouldn't expect a strong, happy voice if she's not feeling well or if she's afraid. And we learned that she told the police about the robbery that had happened this morning. Well, that's a very frightening experience for anybody. So, do we want her voice hummed? Is humming. Soared, here would mean to go very high. Thrived is to do well. That doesn't fit at all. And quivered, quiver is to shake. And you may physically shake. Your body may shake when you're afraid, and your voice too. So definitely choose D. The bank teller's face was pale and her voice quivered as she told the police about the robbery that had happened this morning.
好 ，bank teller 就是银行的出纳员，他的脸呢很苍白 pale， 他的声音很怎么样？那 as 就当他告诉警方关于 the robbery 这个抢案，那抢案什么抢案呢？是今天早上发生的抢案啊，所以我们看看他的声音怎么样呢？他脸已经很苍白了。好，我们看 A 选项 hummed 啊，刚刚 Bruce 老师有示范，就是哼唱的意思。那当然不对，他哼唱应该表示他心情很好。B soared 是攀升哈，或者升高啊，在这里根本不知道什么意思啊。那个而且这个声音啊，如果变高也不用 soared 这个字。那 C 呢 thrived 是蓬勃发展、兴盛的意思啊，这也不对。那 D quivered 这是正确答案，颤抖哈，他的声音会颤抖，所以这是正确答案，选 D。
Number 8. The mayor expressed genuine blank for the victims of the devastating tragedy and promised that their family members would be taken care of. So the mayor expressed genuine what? What genuine means is that it's real. So he expressed some real feeling for them. What kind of real feeling did he express? Our choices are A, sympathy. That's feeling compassionate towards people. B, discouragement. This is a sense of things cannot possibly get better. C, gratitude. This means feeling thankful for something. Or D, congratulation. So obviously you're not going to be like, hey, congratulations, you're a victim. And you're not going to be thankful for victims, and you're not going to discourage victims. So our choice is clearly A, sympathy. The mayor expressed genuine sympathy for the victims of the devastating tragedy and promised that their family members would be taken care of.
好，这位市长呢 expressed 他表达了 genuine 是很真诚的什么东西啊，所以显然是一种真诚的某种情绪。好，是为了谁有这种真诚的情绪呢？为了这个 victims 这些受害者。谁的受害者？什么的受害者呢？是这一个 devastating 就是很毁灭性的 tragedy 一个悲剧的受害者。好，所以他显然表达同情，表达慰问之类的意思。好，然后呢 promised 市长承诺啊 their family members 他们的家人 would be taken care of 会受到照顾。好，所以我们看选项 A sympathy， 这个答案很对，因为他表达了他真诚的同情。好，所以 sympathy 是我们的正确答案。我们看看其他的选项 B discouragement 是让你觉得很丧气的东西，或者那种丧气的感觉。好，那这人家受害已经很可怜了，你还在跟他讲我觉得好丧气哦，那不对啊。C gratitude 是感谢感谢他们受害，这更不可能。那 D congratulation 是恭贺他们，那更不可能非常不可能，所以我们就选 sympathy A。
Number 9. I think the program should be taken off the air because it contains comments that are deeply blank to minority groups. To take something off the air, when we say off the air or on the air, we're referring to broadcasting, whether by radio or television. I don't know if you use that in the world of computers. A program could be a news program, a talk show, anything like that. And this person thinks that that particular program should be stopped, take off the air. They shouldn't show it anymore because it contains comments, things people say that are deeply blank to minority groups. A minority group is virtually everybody in the world. In one way or another, we are all minority of some other group. And we may, if someone says something about us that targets us, they say something bad about us or hurtful to us, then how would we feel? A, shameful, B, offensive, C, miserable, or D, ignorant? Well, you wouldn't feel shameful if you didn't do something wrong. Offensive, that's the opposite. I would feel offended if people said something bad about me that I felt wasn't true or certainly not necessary. Miserable, that are deeply miserable to minority groups, that is a feeling, but it doesn't work here in terms of how the language affects someone. Ignorant means you just don't know anything, and that doesn't work here either. Our best choice is B, offensive. I think the program should be taken off the air because it contains comments that are deeply offensive to minority groups.
所以我认为这个节目应该要被 taken off the air， 就是停止广播或者停止传送所以可能是个电视节目它不应该再播了，那如果是广播节目它也不应该再播了。为什么呢？因为这个节目包含了 comments 一些评论，这个评论是非常的 that are deeply 就是 very 怎么样to minority groups 就是这个少数群体。好，所以我们看 A 选项 shameful 是可耻的或者觉得很丢脸的所以他的 comments 本身绝对不觉得说我这 comment 很丢脸所以这个答案不对。B offensive 这是我们正确答案，因为 offensive 是冒犯的，会得罪人的所以他这些评论可能是非常的 offensive， 大家听得会很不舒服尤其是对这些少数群体来讲，所以 B 是正确选项。那 C miserable 这个评论如果本身很悲惨的话那其实也不至于说他悲惨就悲惨，不至于说不让他播了。D ignorant 是无知的他的 comments 很无知，但是也许有些人不知道他很无知所以都没有那么严重，最严重的应该是 B offensive， 所以这是我们正确选项。
Number 10. In order to complete the application process, you have to blank all your documents and a graduation certificate to the university by the end of this month. You have to give all your documents, you have to give all your pieces of paper, all the various sorts of things that they want to prove your identity, to improve your qualifications, to prove all these things. So that's what documents are. you basically have to give them to the university. And we have two words that are specific to this situation. The more casual one is hand in, and the more formal one is submit. And it's basically these two words are specific to the situation of giving documents to somebody to prove something. So generally to an institution to prove something. So choose D. And so in order to complete the application process, you have to submit all your documents and a graduation certificate to the university by the end of this month.
好，如果你要完成 complete 这个 application process 这个申请的程序，那你必须要怎么样？你所有的文件还要有一个 graduation certificate， 就是一个毕业证书啊，要交给这个大学。By the end of this month， 这个月底之前啊，所以应该是要交上去的意思，把你所有的文件交上去。那我们看看选项 A， 这个 oversee 是监督的意思啊，那所以不对。B notify 是告知或者通知。C inherit 是继承啊，或者是遗传到什么东西，这三个答案都不对。所以第四个答案 submit 是提交啊，呈交的意思 hand in 的意思，这个是我们标准答案。你要 hand in all your documents， 东西统统都要交进去，所以正确答案是 D submit。
Well, that's it for today's lesson. Oh, stop crying. We'll be back tomorrow with 2 short pieces of news for you. We have this every month. Until then,
Bye-bye.